Today we will be reacting to Andy Reid's. I almost called it Rants. Damn, I watch so much Rants YouTubers. Anyway, so it's like Reddit stories. What the flip is it? What the flip is happening in my room downstairs? But anyways, it's time to react. By the way, this is a 10-minute video because YouTube won't allow me to post anything longer than 10 minutes.
Who's the biggest attention seeker you've ever met?
My
Caitlin
sister.
was one of those girls who always needed to be the center of everything. If someone else got picked for class president, suddenly she'd have some dramatic emergency. If her crush was talking to another girl, boom, she'd start crying about her dead grandma or something. But the weirdest thing was how the fire alarm kept going off at our school, like literally every other week. The principal thought it was broken or something, but it always happened at the most random times. During pep rallies when other people were getting cheered for, during talent shows when someone else was performing, during lunch when people were talking about how cool someone else was.
This is
Nobody
a
connected it to
pick-me
Caitlin
girl.
at first because she was always right there looking
I would have
She'd even tweet about how annoying the fire drill was.
I would have lived the
Mr.
school
Jenkins, our janitor,
if
found
I have a
something weird behind
pick-me
the art wing.
school.
A pencil jammed into one of the fire alarms. Not just any pencil, though. This thing had KM carved into it. Caitlin Martinez. She tried saying someone stole her pencil and framed her, but come on, who steals pencils just to frame someone? Word got around fast.
Yeah, no one does. I think that girl's like straight up delusional,
right?
just like my
She just
friends.
switched tactics. Suddenly, Caitlin had every medical condition you could think of. One week, she was having seizures in the middle of English class. Next week, she was having panic attacks during math tests. She'd collapse in the hallway and everyone would freak out and call the nurse. The thing is, her timing was suspicious as hell. She only had these episodes when something good was happening to someone else. Like when this girl Ashley got asked to prom by the hot senior, Caitlin had a fainting spell right in front of their lockers. When our basketball team won regionals and everyone was celebrating, she started hyperventilating.
You can't even be happy for your own basketball
only happened during big moments. Never during boring Tuesday afternoon history class or anything. Always during assemblies or after someone else got good news. The final straw was during our spring talent show. This girl, Aaliyah, had been practicing violin for months. She was actually really good too, like competition level good. Everyone was excited to hear her play because she'd been posting practice videos and they were amazing. So Aaliyah gets on stage. The spotlight hits her. She raises her violin. And right as she's about to start playing, Caitlin screams from the audience and drops to the floor like a sack of potatoes. Her eyes are rolling back. She's twitching the whole 9 yards. Everyone panics. Teachers are running over. Someone called 911.
Oh my god, she can't be happy for anyone. This girl has to be insane. She is insane. She needs medical help. She needs therapy.
I was helping clean up chairs so I could hear everything through the curtain. They're checking her pulse, her breathing, asking her questions, but she's not responding, just lying there with her eyes closed, looking all peaceful. Then I heard one of the paramedics whisper something to his partner. Something about her vital signs being totally normal. Her pulse was steady, her breathing was calm. When they'd shine a light in her eyes, her pupils reacted fine. And when they asked her questions, her eyelids would twitch like she was listening but trying not to respond. That's when the older paramedic leaned down and whispered in her ear. I couldn't hear what he said at first, but then he said it louder. If you don't wake up in the next 10 seconds, we're gonna have to insert a catheter to check for internal injuries. Caitlin sat up so fast she almost gave herself whiplash. Her eyes were wide open and she was looking around like she just woke up from a nap. What? Where am I? What happened? All innocent and confused, but it was too late. Half the backstage crew heard what the paramedic said. The story spread through school faster than wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone knew Caitlin had been faking her medical emergencies. Her parents pulled her out of school a month later and enrolled her somewhere across town.
Imagine that happening.
What teacher insulted you in your own language? My math teacher thought I didn't speak Spanish. Big mistake. I was born in California, but...
English or Spanish? Okay, I didn't. That was completely unnecessary.
My parents came from Colombia when they were teenagers. At home, we spoke Spanish every single day. My mom would cook while telling me stories about her childhood in Bogota. My dad would watch soccer games and yell at the TV in Spanish. But at school,
I don't speak English or Spanish.
Ms. Graham was new to our school district. She'd transferred from some rural area upstate where apparently nobody looked like me. From day one, she made comments about the diversity programs and how standards were dropping. But she said it quietly, thinking none of us understood. During my second week in her algebra class, I was presenting a group project about linear equations. I made a small error while explaining one of the steps. No big deal, happens to everyone. But Ms. Graham leaned over to the teaching assistant and whispered in Spanish, Otra perezosa, su gente nunca se esfuerza. Another lazy one. Her people never try hard. I froze. Did this woman really just call me lazy in Spanish right in front of me? I kept my face neutral and pretended I didn't understand. But inside, I was furious. The worst part was she had this smug smile, like she'd gotten away with something clever.
That's how I feel when my teacher blames me for something that I never even did.
At night and doing alterations during the day. She doesn't take disrespect from anybody, especially not some teacher insulting her daughter. But instead of marching to the principal's office like I expected, she sat down at our kitchen table and started planning. Mija, we're going to be smart about this, she said. Keep track of everything she says. Write it down with dates and times. And whatever you do, don't let her know you speak Spanish. For the next 2 weeks, I played completely dumb in math class. Ms. Graham kept making comments in Spanish, thinking she was safe. She called me and other Hispanic students lazy, said our parents probably didn't care about education, even joked to the TA that we'd probably drop out anyway. I documented everything in a notebook, word for word. The parent-teacher conference was
I will
scheduled
drop out
Thursday
for
evening. My
YouTube.
mom took off work early, which was a big deal because she needed every hour. We walked into that classroom together, and Ms. Graham immediately got that condescending look teachers get when they think they're dealing with parents who don't speak English. Ah, we might need to call for a translator, Ms. Graham said to the assistant principal, who was also in the room for these meetings. She said it slowly and loudly, like volume would help us understand better. That's when I cut in, speaking perfect Spanish. Actually, Ms. Graham, we understand you perfectly, just like I understood you on September 15th when you called me lazy, and September 22nd when you said Hispanic students don't try hard, and October 3rd when you told Mrs. Peterson that kids like me would probably drop out anyway. Ms. Graham's face went completely white. The assistant principal, Mr. Hayes, also spoke Spanish, and his eyes got huge as I continued reciting every single comment she'd made over the past 2 weeks. I had dates,
Damn, they fun in
times,
your
and
school
the exact
speak
context of
Spanish?
each conversation. My mom stayed quiet the whole time, just nodding as I spoke. When I finished, she finally said in English, "My daughter has a 3.8 GPA. She's in honors classes.
That looks
She volunteers at the community center every
that
weekend.
looks so
Maybe you should
good.
worry less about
I
our
wish this
people
was
and more
my
about your
mom or
teaching." The
parent
room
or
was dead
friend.
silent. Ms.
I
Graham
will
tried to
ask for
stammer
all
some
of the
excuse about being
recipes.
misunderstood, but
This
Mr. Hayes
literally
cut her
looks
off.
so
He asked her to step
delicious.
outside while he spoke with us privately. The next day,
No,
Ms.
that
Graham
is
brought us to
actually
class.
delicious.
We
You
had a
can't
substitute
blame
for the
me.
rest of the week. Word spread quickly through school about what happened. By Monday, everyone knew Ms. Graham was on administrative leave pending an investigation. 3 weeks later, the principal announced that Ms. Graham had decided to resign and pursue other opportunities. I ended up with an A+ in algebra that semester. Turns out when your teacher isn't constantly undermining you in a language she thinks you don't speak, learning becomes a lot easier. What teacher insulted you?
Wait, let's see some of the comments. Wait, why was she Illumina? Okay, I'm not reading that. AI story, listen. Lines. Study is smart, teacher bad. Family wasn't good to them when they grow up successfully. They did. Oh, they didn't help. They didn't help family. Something about grooming. Mean friends. What? This dude makes no sense.
Gamers, what's the craziest thing you've ever heard over voice chat?
Gamers. Wait, what?
Gamers, what's the craziest?
Gamers. What was the craziest thing you have ever heard over voice chat? Why? Damn, what? Why that voice so deep? Why that voice so deep?
Thing you've ever heard over voice chat? I was playing Rainbow Six Siege late one night when I had just joined a
That's
random
not even a
squad,
game,
and this
I
kid,
believe.
probably around 12,
If
was
it
being
is,
super
sorry.
chatty and excited.
I
He
was
kept
born.
talking about strategies and asking for
I'm
advice.
not
Clearly just
saying
happy
before
to have
people
people to
call
play
me
with.
Gen
About an
Z.
hour into our session, we heard a loud
Or
crash through his
Alpha,
mic,
whatever.
followed by screaming. The kid went quiet for a second, then whispered, "I have to go," but he didn't disconnect. Instead, we heard heavy footsteps and a man's voice slurring, "Where's the money?" The kid's mom was crying in the background. My whole squad fell silent, listening to this domestic violence situation unfold through this poor kid's headset. The dad was clearly drunk, throwing things and demanding money they apparently
Problem. Okay,
didn't have. The kid must have forgotten his mic was still on. The mom's voice got closer, begging the husband to calm down. "Please, Travis is in his room. He can hear everything." That's when we heard the sound of someone being hit, followed by the kid screaming, "Stop hurting Mom!" My hands were shaking. One of my squad mates, Ryan, asked if anyone knew the kid's real name or where he lived. Nobody did. We only knew him as Snipe King 203. Another teammate was already calling 911, but what could we tell them? Suddenly, the kid's voice came through clearly. He must have put his headset back on. He was crying and trying to whisper, "Please help. My dad's really drunk. He's hurting Mom. We live at 1847 Oakwood Drive in Pittsburgh. Please send someone." Ryan, who turned out to be an off-duty cop from Philadelphia, took charge. He kept talking to Travis, keeping him calm while another teammate relayed the address to Pittsburgh PD. We could still hear the chaos. Furniture breaking, the mom crying, the dad threatening to kill everyone. Travis told us his dad had lost his job 3 months ago and had been getting drunk every night since then. Tonight was worse because Mom had used the last of their savings to buy groceries instead of giving him drinking money. The next few minutes were terrifying. The dad found Travis Travis in his room and started screaming about him being on the computer instead of helping with money. We heard the headset clatter to the ground. Travis was crying, "No, Dad, please, not the belt." That's when we heard sirens in the background. The dad started yelling about calling the cops, and Travis screamed that he hadn't done it. There was a loud thud. Later, we found out the dad had thrown Travis against the wall. We heard the police announcing themselves, then the sound of the door being broken down. There was a lot of shouting, things breaking, and finally, the dad screaming as they arrested him. A female officer found Travis and checked if he was okay. Travis picked up his headset one last time. He was crying but managed to say thank you before his mom took him to the hospital. The officers talked to us briefly through his mic, getting statements about what we'd heard. I couldn't sleep that night. None of us could. We kept our party chat open until morning, just processing what had happened. Ryan used his police connections to follow up on the case. Travis and his mom moved in with his grandmother that week. His dad got arrested for domestic violence, child abuse, and a bunch of other charges. 6 months later, Travis joined our party again. His voice was brighter, and he told us things were much better. His mom had a good job, he was doing well in school, and his dad was in prison. He still plays with us sometimes, but now we only hear normal household sounds in the background. His mom calling him for dinner, his dog barking, his little sister asking to play. Last week, Travis's mom joined our party chat briefly.
I'm never
She was
doing
crying,
that.
but this time from
I'm
gratitude.
never doing that.
She thanked us for
I'm never
being
doing
there
that
that night,
shit
for
ever
not
again.
disconnecting, for caring about her son. She told us Travis calls us his guardian angels. His dad serving 15 years, and they're finally at peace. Gamers. What's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen?
Wait,
that was
we have got to check the
Gamers.
comments.
What's the craziest thing you've ever heard over voice chat?
Thought to make a growing man crying. I'm the grown man. What do you mean by that? You guys are actually online angels to help that boy. The gaming community is actually a massive and
What's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen that was disguised as tradition? Growing up in my house, my parents had this bizarre ritual.
we don't
they
have
called
churches.
Truth Hour. Every Sunday at exactly 6
I
p.m.,
better
we'd
stop
all
myself
gather in the
before
living room, and everyone
my
had to
sister
confess
comes in
something
my
bad
room
they'd done
and
that week. My parents claimed it
says
was an
you.
old family tradition meant to keep us honest and close. The reality?
Oh wait.
What's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen that was disguised as tradition? Growing up in my house, my parents had this bizarre ritual they called Truth Hour. Every Sunday at exactly 6 p.m., we'd all gather in the living room. And everyone something bad they'd done that week. My parents claimed it was an old family tradition meant to keep us honest and close. The reality? It was their way of catching us in lies and punishing us. My older sister Natalie would usually confess to small things like sneaking extra dessert or watching TV past bedtime. But I saw how my parents would twist every confession into something worse. One time when I was 12, Natalie admitted she'd gotten a B on her math test. My parents spent the next hour interrogating her about why she was throwing away her future. By the end, she was sobbing and grounded for 2 weeks. That's when I decided to break their system. The next Sunday, I walked into Truth Hour with a thick notebook. When it was my turn, I pulled it out and said, "I've been keeping track of everyone's confessions since January." My parents' faces went pale. "For example," I continued, flipping through pages, "3 months ago, Dad confessed to having a drink after work. But last month, when Mom accused him of coming home late, he said he never drinks on weekdays." My dad's coffee mug froze halfway to his mouth. I turned another page. "And Mom, 2 weeks ago, you said you were working late on Thursday. But in your confession the next Sunday, you said you were having dinner with Aunt Paula on Thursday." My mom's eyes started twitching, but I wasn't done. I also noticed that when Natalie confesses to small things, she gets major punishments. But when Dad confessed to denting someone's car in the grocery store parking lot and driving away, he just called it a moment of weakness, and nothing happened. The room was so quiet you could hear our ancient ceiling fans squeaking. "That's enough," my dad snapped, reaching for my notebook. But I'd prepared for this. I pulled out photocopies from my back pocket and held them up. "I made copies," I said calmly, "and I've been sending them to my email account after every Truth Hour. You know, for tradition's sake." My sister's jaw dropped. Mom started doing that nervous cleaning thing where she straightens everything in sight. Dad's face went through about 5 different shades of red. "Also," I added, "I've calculated that in the past year, Natalie and I have received 43 punishments from our confessions. You guys, 0. I even made a graph. I pulled out a color-coded chart I made in math
never
class.
mind.
This is ridiculous."
I'm
Mom
really
sputtered.
don't mind.
"We're the parents. This is about teaching you kids honesty." "Really?" I pulled out another paper. "Because I started recording our Truth Hours 2 months ago on my phone. Want to hear how many times you've used our confessions against us later?" I made a tally with dates. Dad stood up so
That looks
fast his chair fell
delicious.
backward. This ends now. Sure, I agreed. That's actually what I'm confessing to today. I want Truth Hour to end. Or maybe, I smiled, we could make it more fair? Maybe add some consequences for parents too? The next week, Truth Hour was mysteriously canceled. Mom said it was because we were mature enough now to not need it. Dad couldn't look me in the eye for days. But here's the best part. A month later, I overheard Mom and Dad arguing about his after-work drinks again. Mom yelled, "How can I trust you?" Dad's response, "Maybe we should bring back Truth Hour." I happened to walk by their room right then, notebook clearly visible in my back pocket. They both went silent so fast it was almost funny. Truth Hour never came back. These days, when my parents start fishing for confessions, I just pat my backpack and smile. It's amazing how fast they change the subject. Last week, Natalie asked me if I actually had copies of everything. I showed her my notebook, completely blank except for the first 3
You
pages.
saw nothing.
What's the most disturbing thing you've ever
This is
seen?
the last shot before YouTube.
When did you have to choose between two lives?
I
was
need
15 when my mom
Bleach
asked me
again.
to pick which parent I wanted to live with. Not in some dramatic court. What did your child?
This is
When
my-
did you have to choose between? What did your child say in court that?
This is the final short. This one is
When
the
did you have
final
to choose
short.
between two lives? I was 15 when my mom asked me to pick which parent I wanted to live with. Not in some dramatic courtroom scene you see in movies, but sitting at our kitchen table on a Tuesday night over leftover pizza. They'd been fighting for months. Dad sleeping on the couch, Mom crying in the shower. My little brother Jake was.
If you guys enjoyed this video, bye bye.